what a treat. We get to talk college football with one of my all-time favorites, Danny Kanell. Cover 3 podcast, Sirius XM. You have more jobs than I can't even come up with anything that even comes close to you, sir. How you doing?
I am fantastic. I told you I got mouths to feed. I have 3 daughters. They're off to college soon, so I got to pay for that. Weddings down the road, and that doesn't even include all the gas money requests. And I don't know about you. I don't know if you're a coffee drinker or not.
Yeah.
I didn't start drinking coffee until I was about 28.
Wow.
What is up with, kids starting to drink coffee at 14 and 15 and going to Starbucks and dropping $20 like it's nothing? I mean, that's why I'm working so many jobs, is to put the coffee habit in our household.
First world problems. But, yeah, it's true. That's the hangout now. I've discovered Celsius. I don't know about you. That stuff's a lifesaver. I've got a late hockey game tonight. Starts at 10 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to be up till 2. So I've got an IV drip of the watermelon lemonade Celsius working right now. You're going to Madison. I don't think you're going to see that competitive a game, but I remember a time where Wisconsin was good at football, or at least they pretended to be good at football. They never really beat anybody good, except for when Russell Wilson was there for a year. But they're not good anymore.
No, it's been a struggle. And what's crazy about it is Luke Fickell, when he was hired at Wisconsin, I thought it was a great hire. And I still think he's a good football coach. I think there's a couple things that have unfolded. Remember when Wisconsin was good, they played when the Big Ten had divisions.
Yes.
And remember, all the good teams were on the one side and all the poor teams were on the other one. So you could have a Wisconsin or an Iowa make a run and they'd go to the Big Ten championship game and then they'd get beat 59-0 to Ohio State, which did actually happen in a Big Ten championship game. So that ended up hurting them because then all of a sudden their schedule got harder. And then I really think the portal and NIL and the new landscape of college football has kind of left Wisconsin behind. Everybody that I talked to said they don't have many resources. And it's still, even with rev share, there's still a spending, an arms race that takes place. And Wisconsin just does not have the coffers that some of these other schools do. And as much credit as Kirk Cignetti deserves at Indiana, he's actually had a pretty significant financial backing where they've spent money to help him get a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, get some pieces on the defensive side of the ball to help them be competitive. Now, he's a phenomenal coach, but he's not doing it just, with a roster that's depleted of talent. He's got a talented roster, so it does matter, and I think that's really hurt Wisconsin.
Danny Kanell is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show, CBS Sports HQ, on Saturday from 9 to noon. Check out the college preview show. And Madison's just a great setting anyway, so you'll have fun even if you don't want to talk about the game you're at. Let me just bring this closer to home because I want to get back to Kirk Cignetti at Indiana, who we saw here as an assistant in this area. It's possible to create good football at a place like Indiana. Theoretically, it should be possible to create good football at North Carolina. Bill Belichick claims, and by the way, we're brought to us, Danny's here, a service of betonline.ag. And I should have mentioned that at the top, but let me use something that they sent me, which I found fascinating. So you can bet on when Bill Belichick and Carolina will win their first ACC game. And you can't do that at your garden variety of sports books, but you can at Bet Online. My pick is none. That's plus 1,000. My pick is 0 ACC games. What have you seen from the Tarheels? Have you seen anything at all encouraging that would make you believe that Bill is telling us the truth when he says they are an improved football team?
I got to give a ton of credit. I believe it's Pat Welter, the reporter there at WRAL.
Correct.
They're locally around your parts.
Yep.
Who actually pushed back. And I thought it was a great question. That's not easy to do against Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick is sitting up there on a bye week and he's talking about how we're making progress and we're improving. And Pat Welter's like, well, we haven't seen it. Are we going to actually see some results, like some points scored or a competitive game? And it really didn't get that much better. It was just like, well, you got to trust us. Until I see it, I don't believe it either. Like this weekend, they're a 10-point underdog against Cal, and Cal is kind of a sneaky good team. They're not going to beat Virginia. Virginia's a really good football team. Syracuse has their issues, but I trust Fran Brown in kind of a surly kind of, team that's, it's going to get it done. Stanford is the game I look at that you kind of have to get a win in that one. Like if you're going to get one, but yet we're talking about a program that's been outscored 120-33 against Power 4 opponents. Like it has been absolutely atrocious. It's been, I think I told you at the beginning of the season, I thought it was going to be boom or bust. Like I didn't think there was a middle 7-win season. I thought maybe 4 or 5 wins was in play. I never would have thought in a million years that you wouldn't see an ACC win or a Power 4 win. It has been very, very surprising to see it fall off the rails this quickly. And I know there was a lot of smoke and a lot of rumblings a week ago, like going into the bye week.
Yeah.
I don't think those go away. And I almost wonder if everybody gets in a room, the power players, the decision makers, get in a room with Bill Belichick and they have a real honest conversation and say, what are we doing here? And that Bill Belichick steps up and says, you know what? For my legacy, it might just be best for me to say, you know what? This was a mistake. I'm going to go off and I'm going to go live on a beach somewhere with my girlfriend and just enjoy life and it is a different animal. That's the thing that I think Bill Belichick probably underestimated, where college players are different than pro players.
Yep.
Like you don't have to have an emotional attachment to an NFL player. They punch into work and they go do what you tell them to do and they take care of their business. In college, you do have to have some emotional attachment. They want to like their head coach.
Yes.
Not necessarily, but they want an emotional attachment where they feel like they care about you as a person off the field and that they're trying to build you as a human being. And I get that they want development as a professional player, but they also have to be inspired and want to play for you. Even with the players getting paid now, look at the best coaches in the game. The Kirk Signettis, the Ryan Days, the Dan Lannings, who are emotionally charged, passionate coaches who inspire their players. That's just not the style of Bill Belichick. It's not in his repertoire. And if he did, it would be fake. So I just think it was a bad fit from the get-go. And that's why I think it probably is best if everyone just looks at this and says, let's just cut bait and move on.
Yeah, when you said honest conversation, I don't think there's going to be any honest conversations there. I think there are too many big egos in the room, and I don't think Bill's got the biggest one. I think the people who pulled the strings to make this happen have bigger egos than Bill Belichick. Danny Kanell is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Some of the things you just mentioned, I've already discussed extensively over the last several days. But let me just drill down on one thing I talked about yesterday, because we did a little press conference redo. And if I were Bill, I offered this assistance. When you say we are an improved football team, since we are knuckle-dragging, unsophisticated football watchers, you have to explain to us why it is, if you are better, you're getting curb stomped. Now, you could simply have said, look, Clemson's got 27 players. I'm spitballing here. They've got 27 players who are going to play in the NFL, whether it's next year, the year after that. They're loaded with NFL talent. We don't have that level of ability. So that's why it looked like that. But I can tell you, through experience, through practice, I can see the improvement being made. And when we play teams that have similar abilities to us, it will show. But he's not going to do that because he doesn't care what we think. So we're going to sit here and watch Cal. Hopefully, my feeling is for Carolina, it's just a look competent game. There are no must wins, but there is a must look competent, and I think that comes Friday night.
I hope so. I really do. I hope it does, because I'd like for this thing to at least get a little bit better and see some improvement, because they're becoming the laughingstock of not only ACC but college football. And while I hear what you're saying about Clemson and there's an opportunity, wouldn't that describe UCF as a team that also was incredibly portal heavy, that had a lot of new players, and you weren't competitive in that game? So, that's where – but I honestly don't know, other than saying we screwed up on a lot of our talent evaluation, which I do think was a problem, which throws your own players under the bus. It's really just an uncomfortable situation where I think you just say, look, it's been unacceptable, the results we've seen. I understand the frustration. We're doing everything we can to address it. We're making positional changes. We're trying to coach up technique. We're going to go give it our best shot. Like, other than that, I don't know what else you can say.
You are 100% correct. Let's go on to the sneaky best game in college football that does not involve an SEC team. Georgia Tech at Duke. Blue Devils are according to betonline.ag, 1.5-point favorite by the Blue Devils at home to an undefeated Georgia Tech team. To me, this is the last real hurdle for Georgia Tech. Now, anybody can lose to anybody, so I'm not saying they're definitely going to go undefeated. But this is the best game that Georgia Tech will play, best team they will play until they get Georgia the final Saturday of the season. How do you see this?
I actually like Georgia Tech here, but I will say, and I like both these coaches. I like Manny Diaz a lot, but Brent Key is one of my favorites.
Yep.
We've had him on our radio show a couple times. He is such a likable guy. Like, we had a conversation with him. It just felt like you were catching up with an old buddy, and he was telling about his story, how he got into coaching, but he went first, and he was, like, trying to be a salesman, and he was selling, like, insurance, and he was like, it was miserable. I hated it. So I got back into coaching. But I do think they have more of I like the way they're physical up front. And I do think Haynes King is a special player, the quarterback for Georgia Tech, who feels like more than maybe Diego Pavia is a similar style player where it might not be the prettiest, but you just will your way to a win. But I'm also fully aware that Darian Mensah at Duke has been well worth the money that Duke spent to get him there. And it looked like all of a sudden it was going to be disaster, right? Because they lost to Illinois. That game was closer than the score. There was a couple turnovers in the fourth quarter where it got sideways. Then they lost to Tulane, a really good group of five. Darian Mensah's old school, and you're like, oh, boy, here we go. But since then, Darian Mensah's been one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. But I do think Georgia Tech will be able to get the ground game established, but, keep the ball away a little bit from Darian Mensah. And I do think their defense can pressure Mensah. And when he's been pressured, he has been a little bit turnover prone in some of those games that they lost. So I actually do like Georgia Tech to win this one. I would not be surprised if I'm wrong, though. This is more of a lean than a lock. And I told you the emotional attachment I have. But I agree with you. This is one of the more underrated, games of the weekend. The question I have for you, what's the atmosphere going to be like there in Wallace Wade? Because I remember watching it against Illinois when they had a ranked team come in there. It was like half full. I was shocked. I thought they'd get some enthusiasm coming in there.
You shouldn't be shocked. Depends on how many fans drive up from Atlanta for this game. I've been saying this. I go back to the David Cutcliffe era, Danny. As good a football as they have played in Durham with this program, whether it's Cutcliffe or Elko or now Manny Diaz, there's no local fan base at all. I shouldn't say none, but it's minimal. And if you're not playing a team that is drivable, you're just not going to fill that place out. And they do play good football. It should be fun football to watch. The offense is exciting. The defense gets after it. I love their defense. But I do think you can run on them. Illinois should have run the ball more, which is why that game was maybe closer than it should have been early. But I actually think Duke outplayed Illinois in that game. The turnovers, I actually think the mistake on the punt return team where they had two guys wearing number 8 on the punt return team, that to me flipped the entire game. Let me ask you one more quick thing before we let you go. I know you've got Miami number 3, Indiana number 1, Ohio State number 2. But let me ask you about Penn State, and we'll close on this. You go as long as you want because I know you've got other things to do. James Franklin had a great career at Penn State. He won, more than 100 games in less than 12 seasons. There's just not many coaches that can put up that kind of a resume. The AD did say that his lack of success in big games mattered, and I get it, but it just seems odd that you would fire him during the season. It was definitely an anger fire to me. What are your thoughts on Franklin and Penn State and the message it sends?
I always get a little bit concerned when you get emotional decisions that are right in the heat of the moment. And I get, it's really hard for me to be a Penn State fan who's upset saying, how could we lose back-to-back games as a 3-touchdown favorite and find that acceptable after we were a preseason favorite to win the national championship? I get that. But I also remind people that first of all, I wonder if Pat Kraft has already had a deal where, and maybe it's only he and the coach that he wants to hire are the only people that know. Because if you tell anybody else, it's probably going to get leaked. But if he had a phone call with Matt Rule, if he had a phone call with Kirk Cignetti and said, would you come here? And you get a yes, we'll figure it out later. Because if they don't, I always get a little bit of cautionary tale to a lot of programs that are out there. Like, first of all, you think you're always going to get your guy. Like, you can get whoever you want. James Franklin and Penn State is a great location. It's one of the best jobs in college football.
Yeah.
But those guys have really good jobs too. Like, Matt Rule has a really good thing going in Nebraska that he started. And maybe he'll come back to the place he played. And if he does, and I'm like, all right, it must have made sense. What if Nebraska starts winning and they're in the playoffs? Are they going to wait around? Same thing with Kirk Cignetti. What if he decides to stay at Indiana? He's 65 years old. What if he doesn't want to start over one more time? He doesn't have to start over. It's not a rebuild. But what if he wants to try to do something in Indiana that's never been done before, where you're a hero, as opposed to if you go to Penn State, as has been proven, and you go 10-2, and they're like, it's not good enough. So then all of a sudden you start getting down the list of coaches, and then you start, which way are we going to go now? And it's not always a sure thing. Like what happened at Georgia is what every Penn State wants to happen.
Right.
Mark Richt was there, was an outstanding coach, couldn't get over the hump. They bring in Kirby, and the rest is history. Has anybody paid attention that Kirby Smart in Georgia lowered their, I'll say, air quote, standards as far as discipline, character? Because that was one thing Mark Richt really held up to, and it probably cost him the ability to win championships. Is that what the next coach is going to have to do? Is he going to ask them to do that? Are they going to be willing to do that to get as competitive as they want to be? Or is this Penn State? Did they go the way of Nebraska or the Florida Gators, who have fired really good coaches because it simply wasn't good enough to be 9-10 wins? They wanted that championship. Well, guess what? Both those programs still searching for answers. It is always a cautionary tale. I don't know which direction it goes. All I know is $50 million is a lot of money to take on that risk before you know that answer. And I hope Pat Kraft gets it right, or else this fan base is going to find themselves in the exact same position in 3 or 4 years.
Danny Kanell, CBS Sports, the Cover 3 podcast, part of the panel, always entertaining. He'll be on the preview show on CBS Sports HQ, 9 to noon. Sir, the iced brown sugar oatmeal shaken espresso is addictive. That explains why your daughters are at Starbucks.
Yep, pretty much, and why I'm working 4 jobs to pay for all this coffee.
Thanks, man.
See ya.